Here we go, going live. Welcome to the Women Who Dare to Lead interview series. My name is Charmaine Bostwick. I am a coach and an EFT practitioner. I support women leaders to overcome stress, anxiety, self-doubt, overwhelm, whatever it is that's in their way, so that they can have a bigger impact in their work and in their lives from a place of clarity and confidence and purpose. I was inspired to start doing these interviews because I want to showcase courageous women leaders who are living their purpose by using their life experiences, their skills, and most of all, their hearts to step up and lead and change the world. So welcome to everybody who's also maybe watching this recording later on and isn't with us live. I'm so glad you're here. If you haven't already, please, I want to invite you to come and join my Facebook group, Women Who Dare to Lead. I have put a link in the comments, so you can just click on that and come over, join our group. You'll find a lot of support and community there. And if you haven't already, please like and follow my business page, Charmaine Bostwick Coaching. I have that link in the comments as well. And I appreciate any and all support. So my guest today is Carol Ann Marshall, and Carol Ann is on a mission to help millions of women around the world take their power back and build strong, healthy relationships with their significant others. Carol Ann is a certified conscious uncoupling coach and an author whose coaching programs help determined women get confident in themselves, get clear in who they are and what they want, so that they can take their power back in their most important relationships. So Carol Ann, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really honored to have you as my guest.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for asking me to be on your program.
Yeah, you're so welcome. So let's just jump in. My first curiosity and question for you is really your story. So if you could just tell us a little bit about your story, and then briefly about why you're doing this work, the work that you do at this time in your life.
Well, I have always considered myself pretty smart. I have 2 degrees, and I've always been a person who is always searching. I love learning. And I couldn't quite understand why I was attracting men who were emotionally abusive. Mm. And it made me stop and think that there had to be something about me rather than them, because I was the common denominator in it all. Mm-hmm. I had 3 significant relationships, and they were all emotionally abusive. I didn't know that term at the beginning. Mm-hmm. I just knew that the behavior was behavior that was not something that was right. But like many women, I was programmed to try to be Little Miss Perfect and be the good girl and to please people. And those kinds of characteristics that attract men are usually the ones that get exploited and get abused. So I decided that I needed to figure myself out. And I started trying to find my way. And now that we have the internet, 20 years ago, I couldn't do this. But I just started to go on the internet and type in words and names, and things started to show up. And some of the personal development people started to show up. People like Lisa Nichols, Marcy Shimoff, and Mary Morrissey. I started to look at, and even Oprah. I'd known Oprah for many years, not know her personally, but been followed her for many years, and started to understand that what I was experiencing was emotional abuse and learned some of the signs that I had taken for granted and what many women take for granted and accept that we should not be accepting because of our programming is women to be all things to all people. And we never think of ourselves. We think of how we're going to benefit other people, how we're going to keep the household together, how we're going to keep a relationship together. And we don't stop to look at what's happening to us. So I went to the doctor one day and
Caroline,
yes.
I'm going to pause you. I'm so sorry. We're not live.
Oh.
So
5:45.
I have some people who, you know, we're going to come on and watch.
Yeah.
And they're saying that we're not live on there.
Oh.
So you know what? I hate to stop this, but what I want to do is try what I did yesterday and reconnect us and start over.
Okay, no problem. So you want me to leave the studio and come back?
Yeah, let's jump out because we are only 6 minutes in. So I feel like if we go off, oh, actually somebody's here saying they see us.
No, okay.
Oh. Well, I apologize for that. Go ahead and keep going. I'm sorry, so sorry, everybody. We had some people who were expecting the live saying they couldn't see it. So if you can see us, please show us lots of love and say hello. That really helps us to make sure that we're live. So I apologize. Thank you.
That's okay. No problem. Yeah. So as I was saying, I had gone to the doctor and I was sitting there and I'm thinking, what I'm experiencing is similar to going to the doctor. You have something that's wrong. You go to the doctor, you get a diagnosis, and you get a prescription. And I started to write things down. And that turned out to be looking at the signs of what I was feeling. And I wrote from A to Z. These are the signs. And that eventually turned into a book, which was not my intention. My intention was just to write things to help me. But as I wrote, I realized that I could help other women. And then it turned into a book. Wow. And the book is, I'm not talking about my story, even though my story is one of 5 in the book. And it was really hard to find those 4 other women to talk to me. Yes, incredibly difficult. Even though I said it's going to be anonymous. You're going to be anonymous. No one will know who you are. It was really hard. But
did they share why that was so hard for them?
They didn't want to talk. And that's the thing. We don't want to talk about emotional abuse. Physical abuse, you can see. You can only tell someone I've fallen down a flight of stairs and broken my arm or walked into a door.
Right.
Once. The second time you say it, people will start to question. Yeah. But emotional abuse, you can't tell anybody because you don't even know yourself. So how can you explain it to somebody else? And then if you do try to explain what I'm going through, they look at you like you're crazy. Yeah. So it's very, very, very difficult to try.
So how did you find these women that you used in your book?
I started to talk to people that I knew to tell them I want to write a book and to give people an idea of what this behavior is about, but I need to get some people to talk to me. And people would give me names of people and I would contact them and then they would say, okay. And then they would say, no, I don't want to do this. Had several people back out at the last minute. It was very difficult. It's embarrassing. Because what we don't realize is it's no respect of persons. It doesn't care who you are. Yeah. You can be the CEO in a company and the cleaner in the company, and both of you could be being emotionally controlled. So I want women to understand that it's nothing don't feel ashamed because it's not something that happens overnight. It builds up over time. And I think of the example of a frog in a pot.
Yeah.
You put a frog in a pot of boiling water, it will jump out. But you put the frog in a pot of water, turn the stove on very gently, let it warm up, the frog's body adjusts to the temperature. And
Wow,
eventually
that's so
the
true.
frog's cooked.
Yep.
Same thing that happens in an emotionally abusive relationship. It just builds up over time. And gradually you realize that you have no power. You're being totally controlled. And in some relationships, that can be helped. You can, if you have a partner who's probably not recognizing what he's doing,
right,
you may be able to talk about it. You may be able to get counseling, but he has to be open to it.
Yeah.
Chances are he's not.
Got
And
it.
then you have to start thinking, what do I want as a woman? What do I need to do to safeguard myself and to live the kind of life that I know I need to live? Because how I'm living right now is not the way I want to live.
Yeah. So the first step of that really is that self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
And realizing that and being willing to shine a light on that, which is a huge first step, I feel like. Especially when there is so much cultural conditioning around, you know, this is normal and this is, you know, or it's not talked about. So it's sort of this hidden thing that we're not really willing to take a look at.
Right. And then the next thing is you have to find somebody you trust to talk to, somebody who's not going to not take what you say seriously.
Yeah.
And that's difficult too.
Well, so, and that's where you come in. I mean, you wrote this book, which is amazing. You were led there by your own self-discovery, right? Like you said, you weren't intending to write this book, but that's what ended up coming through you to support women. And now, you know, you are coaching women. So I want to hear a little bit from you about, you know, what does that work look like when someone's coming to you and they're like, I think I'm in this situation. Can you give us just a little bit of an idea of what that kind of process is and what you're doing with women?
Yes. The first thing really is to look back. I know most of the times we want to move forward, and yes, we should, but there are times we need to look backwards to figure out, what was it about you? You have to dig inside of yourself. You have to, what I call, excavate and deal with the dirt, but you have to be gentle with yourself while you're doing it. Because a lot of how we are programmed, we're programmed from childhood.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Lots of times it means going back into your childhood to figure out what it is that made me into who I am, that attracted this. Because you're attracting it. Is whatever you think about expands.
Yeah.
So you're not conscious about it. It's an unconscious thing, and the subconscious mind controls us much more than we realize. Most people don't think of your subconscious mind, but that is really what controls you.
Yeah, so true. Oh my gosh. Yes.
What's going on behind the scenes?
Yes.
Controlling you. Yeah. So you need I want women to go back and try to look at that and then try to move forward. Because I don't want women to wallow in what happened before. It's a matter of acknowledging it, to figure out, like in my case, to go back and look at me and that's how I figured out that I wanted to be Little Miss Perfect. That's what always, as a child, because I didn't want to disappoint anybody.
Got it. Yeah.
That's the thing. We don't want to disappoint people, especially our parents. And most of us are caught up in a good name. You don't want to embarrass the family. You want to make sure that your name is okay. And growing up on a small island, that was important.
Yes.
My father was a policeman. My mother was a nurse. I couldn't do anything to embarrass them because they were more or less pretty, how do I say, well-respected people in society. Yeah. At least in our area. So that was, trying to be a little bit Miss Perfect, trying to, if anyone wanted anything, I would say, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. That was always me. So it's trying to figure out the things that you learned as a child, and then you have to unlearn those things.
Yeah, kind of unhook those stories, right?
Exactly.
Create new neural pathways. You know, I want to share with you. We have hi Zanana. She's watching and commenting, and just wanted to share. She's saying, you know, often we really need help seeing these things.
Yes.
And she was also agreeing, you know, that so many women feel this way and that there is so much pressure. Yes. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you, Zanana, for those comments. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. We feel that we need to be perfect. We feel we need to be super women. Forget it. There's no such thing as perfection.
No.
And superwoman, forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not possible.
I can underline that extra, you know, right here in my own work and working with leaders, and determined women often have this issue, right? Of perfection, and if I do this and if I do that and all of that stuff, and just it's one of the biggest things that can get in our way, even though it drives us in a certain way. But it's like, if we can unhook that and be driven from a different kind of empowered place. And I think that's what you're getting at, you know, is not that the pleasing and, you know, what's driving that, letting go of that and connecting with what we really, truly, authentically want for ourselves. And what does that look like?
Yeah. And that's true, because there's nothing wrong with trying to do things well.
That's right.
Let me make that clear.
Yes.
We all should strive to do things well, but it's when we go overboard.
Yeah.
That's the problem. We're never satisfied with what we do. But sometimes just doing something, that's enough. We don't have to try to go another mile. That's enough.
Yeah.
But we have to learn to accept that and not beat ourselves up and not be ashamed. And the other thing is living up to other people's expectations. That's the other challenge, and that's also tied up in the whole perfection thing, is wanting to please everybody else. It can't work. It'll wear you down.
Yeah.
And it's just
it can't
work. Yeah.
Yes. So I guess my question, you know, I was going to ask you, how do women give their power up in their relationships, and what are some of the ways to take it back? And I feel like you've answered a lot of that. I'm curious if are there any other specifics, like how that shows up in a relationship when a woman is giving up her power?
When you have no power, you don't feel worthy. You don't feel as if you're being, how do I say it? You don't feel as if you're anybody. Because you're being disrespected in the relationship. You're not, what you say has no say. It's a matter of trying to listen to what the other person say and interject, or to say, this is my point of view, but your point of view is not being taken into consideration. So it's one of the things that I think women need to do is you have to be gentle, because if you're with a person who is not respecting you, having a fight and an argument is not going to help, because that's just going to bring more grief. So what I suggest people do is sometimes you have to pause and you have to step back and you have to think, what's my next step going to be? And you have to plan. You have to plan what you're going to do, because chances are when you try to do something in that moment, that's the time that you do something that's not quite right and just makes things worse for yourself. So instead of that, already know that things are not going well. Acknowledging that is the number one thing that you need to do. Acknowledge that there's something wrong in the relationship and start to make some notes. This is how I want to be treated. This is what I will not put up with. And start setting boundaries. Because often these people or these partners are bullies, and bullies do not like to be confronted. Quite often in a relationship, if you're not careful, it could escalate into physical abuse, and you don't want to go there. But from the beginning, what you can do, start to make notes of some of the things that you feel you need to talk to this person about. If you don't feel that you can talk to the person, find somebody else to talk to get your head clear on exactly what you need to do. Because it's not something you can do alone. And that's why I've developed a coaching practice to do that, to help women walk through the process. Because you cannot do it alone. You don't see the pitfalls. You don't see what other people outside of the relationship will see, and you have no one to prompt you to look at different perspectives of what it means to be in a relationship where you do have some power. Some of the times you're afraid of this person. Fear is one of the big things in these kinds of relationships. When you have no power, you're too afraid of that person. That's a scary place to be. So that's why I insist that, or I shouldn't say insist, I recommend that what you do is find someone to talk to, someone who can walk you through the process and give you ideas, give you tips, give you hints, and hold your hand through the process, because you don't have any power to begin with. You can't just start off figuring that you're going to have some power having a conversation with your partner, because you need to change the dynamics in your own head before you can change the dynamics in the relationship. That, to me, that's crucial, and that's really important. In one of the things too is also starting to build up your self-esteem, because I consider emotional abuse to be the mental control of somebody else by the systematic undermining of that person's self-confidence, self-esteem, and sense of self.
Wow.
By now, you've probably lost all your self-esteem. You've lost your self-confidence. And who you are as a person, you no longer know, especially if you've been in the relationship for a long time. So those are the things that you need to work on. You need to build yourself up first before you can attack this situation you're in. Mm-hmm. Because you can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. You can't see what really is going on, because you're living in it. Mm-hmm. And you're not seeing what's going on in the relationship. It takes someone on the outside to actually see what's going on. And that's common in any situation.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Carol Ann?
If I can.
Good. And I just got the end of that, and I can tell by the comments that you were saying some amazing stuff. I actually froze and had to log out and come back in.
All right. And I just kept talking.
Yes, and I'm so glad you did, because I can tell there was really good stuff that our viewers are getting to take away from that. And so thank you for continuing on. And isn't it nice to know that we don't have to be perfect? That right. And we're just going to come back stronger than ever. So thank you for sharing all of that. I see a couple of comments. Hi, Carol Ann. It's so true. The dynamics in our own head need to change. She's agreeing with you on that.
Yes,
and
definitely.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm just going to continue on with just my logo right now, because my screen keeps freezing up, but I am here, everybody. And so
we can hear you.
Yes, you can hear me.
Yes.
So my next question is, what did you have to overcome? So I know you went through this whole process of, this self-realization and educating yourself, and then that turned into a book, and then you're coming into doing this relationship coaching with women. What, as a leader, emerging as a leader, what did you have to overcome to do this work in order to get to where you are today?
I had to learn to like me. Because I call myself so many names that I would never allow anybody else to call me. I didn't feel that, I didn't feel good about myself. I couldn't understand why I allowed this to happen. And I had to get over that, because if I stayed there, nothing would have changed. Yeah. I had to stop disliking myself, and I had to stop feeling ashamed. I did not talk about my situation for years. None of my friends knew about any of them. And the thing was that the first one, I was a police officer. Wow. And I realized that I needed to get out when we had an argument. And he picked up a knife. Oh, wow. And I thought to myself, I'm just going to get my gun and shoot him. And I realized he's not going to jail. He's not worth going to jail for. Yeah. I could have shot him because I had a gun. Yeah. But I had to like me and not be ashamed. And I started talking to friends. And they were stunned, because we all wear masks. Yes. I was wearing this mask of being cheerful and bubbly and happy and all of that. Yeah. But nobody knew what was going on behind closed doors. Nobody knew. So I had to get beyond that. And it's also growing up with the thing of, you don't air your dirty laundry in public. Oh my gosh, that's a big story right there that a lot of us have gotten into. Yeah. Don't air your dirty laundry. I had to do that, because in order for me to be authentic and let other women I'm coaching know that I'm talking from experience. I'm not talking from something I've read in a book. I'm talking from experience. So I have to give examples of things that happened to me. That's why in all of my Facebook lives and in a lot of the videos I've posted, I've given examples of things that have happened, so that people can learn to trust what I'm saying. Yeah. And the reason I went and learned and studied to be a conscious uncoupling coach was to give myself more skills. I was a school teacher as well, so I know how to teach. I know how to talk. I just wanted to know how to coach, which is a whole different process. A whole different process. Yeah. Different skills.
Yeah.
So that's why I decided if I'm going to help women, I need to be able to help them well. I need to have the skills, and I need to know how to work with women who've gone through trauma, because it's traumatic.
Yeah, totally.
Yes. And that's what I learned in the conscious uncoupling. And it was brutal. It was 6 months of hell. It was like going back to university. It wasn't a weekend boot camp. So I felt that I walked away with really good skills that I could help women, between the skills I learned there and my own experiences. And then from talking to other women about things that happened to them, I feel I'm well positioned to help women move forward in their lives. Absolutely. And not feel ashamed.
Yeah.
Not feel ashamed. There's nothing to be ashamed about. It happens to everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody goes into a relationship expecting it not to work. We all expect our relationship to last forever.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, when we realize that the person we're with is not who we thought was.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of that. And what I was hearing in that is just, your leadership is fueled by these different pieces, by your experience, by your willingness to show up and be vulnerable and share that experience. And then also by your willingness to go out and gain even more skills, to support women in such specific ways. Because this is serious stuff, and it's really important work that you're doing, and it's so needed. So I see such a strong, courageous leader in you, who's really willing to, take things to that next level, not in trying to be perfect anymore, but in trying, in trying to serve better, in trying to really help women to overcome something that is so important.
Yes, and one of the other things I want people to learn too is that once you have determined that you know what the symptoms are and the signs are, and you decide that you want to leave, you can't just up and leave. Yeah. You've got to make a plan. And then once you've gone, what now?
Yeah. So is that part of the work that you're supporting women with as well? Yeah. Yes. Because I would imagine that's a big piece of it.
It's a huge compartment, because you're starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And what do you do now with it? You have an opportunity to live a brand new life.
Yeah.
What do I do with it?
It's a reinvention.
Exactly.
Full on reinvention.
Yeah. And that's one in my book. I've got a 12-step program of these are some of the things
I love
that I had to work on, and I feel would help you. Creative visualization. Now you have to visualize what this new life is going to look like, because it's going to look like nothing like it was before.
Yes.
And looking at your subconscious, because you have to be careful of the words you put in your brain.
That's right. Intentional with those. And yes. Yeah. So I want to, there's a question that came, and if you wouldn't mind, maybe we can put that question for you. I'm not sure I know how to pronounce this name, so I'm so sorry if I mess it up. It's Heidi Maki.
Heidi Maki. Yes, my friend.
Heidi. Okay.
Heidi.
Okay. So she says, what do you do if you become frozen by the fear, in addition to talking to someone? So what can help us unfreeze or dial down the fear?
Okay. I think one of the things is breathing. Because when we're afraid, we freeze.
Yeah.
Taking a deep breath, and then just giving some thought. And as I said earlier, I think when you were off, that you can't just jump in and do something. You have to pause.
Yeah.
Because jumping in sometimes makes the situation worse. But breathing is really important. And sometimes you need to take yourself off into a quiet place. And because if you're in the heat of the moment, You can't, your brain's not working. Remove yourself from the situation. Go into a quiet place. Breathe. You might not know how to do meditation, but everybody breathes.
Yeah.
And take a number of deep breaths, and not deep breaths that are shallow, deep breaths from your belly.
That diaphragmatic, like
Yes.
full breathing.
Because that will help to calm you.
Yeah.
That will help you to calm you down. And then that will give you an opportunity to start to clear your brain. And once your brain is a little calmer, then you might be able to talk. But until you calm yourself, that fear is going to keep you in its grip.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
Yes.
And boy, I mean, stillness, what I'm hearing in that is pointing to that, finding the stillness, giving yourself, the breath takes us out of that fight or flight, and then, really allowing some stillness before, so that we can reconnect, right, to ourselves and to our hearts, and have some time to make a decision from there.
Yeah. And finding a little bit of alone time. That I don't know how difficult that will be for some people, but alone time, even just going to the bathroom and close the door.
Yeah.
For a couple of minutes. Just give yourself some time to breathe.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for answering that question. So when I was asking you, what you had to overcome to do this work to get to where you are today. What was one thing that really stands out that helped you overcome the roadblocks along the way?
Faith.
Beautiful.
Without having faith that I was going to be okay, I don't know where I'd be. Because it's that inner knowledge that kept me moving forward, and I kept telling myself, this too shall pass. I just need to keep moving, putting one foot in front of the other. I had to, and the faith was the thing that, but it was easy. I wouldn't say easy, but I grew up in the church. So faith was always something that was important to me. And I have had that my entire life. So, but for people who might not have had that, I suggest you have to find something outside of yourself to believe in. You may call it the universe, the great spirit, whatever you call it. If you're not religious, if you're not a religious person, most people are spiritual. Yeah. But for me, I found that believing something outside of myself, something I couldn't see, really helped me, because I instinctively knew that there was a better life for me. And no matter what, the roadblocks, but that faith would help me go through it, go through the roadblock, go around it, or kick it down. Amen. I'm just going to go keep moving forward. And it's the determination as well to live a different life, and to know that whatever you're living, there's something better than that.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. What I was also picking up in that was, the faith, it's almost like it was allowing you to hear your inner wisdom.
Yes.
To tune into that inner wisdom, and to really trust in that inner compass that we all have, that often gets pushed aside because of what we're told to do or what we should do, or, you know, the whatever it is, those stories. But it sounds like that was really strong for you, along with your faith.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Oh my goodness. Such good stuff, Carol Ann.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been really amazing to listen to your story, and this is such important work that you're doing, and I'm so grateful to you for doing it, and for having the courage to you know, share your story and step out and really support other women who are going through or have gone through similar challenges. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking me.
What is there anything that you'd like to say before we wrap up? Is there anything you'd like to say to the women who are listening, who might be struggling with similar issues, that you kind of want to leave with them today?
The one thing I would say is, don't give up. Wherever you are right now, if you feel that you're not happy, or you're not comfortable, you're feeling off kilter, all of that, if you're not feeling right, there is a better life.
Yeah.
You are not required to put up with what you're putting up with. And one of the things we didn't talk about before is boundaries. But we'll
talk about it. Go ahead and talk about it briefly if you want to say something about that.
Yeah, we have to set boundaries. And that's one of the things that we don't do as women. We just let people run roughshod over us, walk all over us, and we put up with it. But I have come to the realization through the getting from where I was to where I am today that I have to set boundaries. And I have decided that when I set a boundary, there's no negotiation. Because I'm not saying that you're not going to compromise in a relationship. Every relationship you have to compromise, but there's some things that should, if you set it as a boundary, you should know in your head, and the other person should know, it's not going to be crossed. I found that out the hard way. Because in one of my relationships, a boundary that I had set as a child, that I would not remain in a relationship with anyone who was unfaithful. I broke that boundary. And instead of putting it on him, I thought to myself, what did I do wrong? So I internalized it, and I put up with it, and I just went ahead like nothing happened. So a boundary is really important, and it takes a lot of guts to stick to a boundary.
Stick to them.
Huge guts to stick to a boundary, because most people will want you to toss it away. But you can't, because that's who you are as a person. And if you don't set boundaries and stick by those boundaries, then you're wishy-washy. That's what I've learned. And my message to women is that wherever you are in your relationship, if you feel that you're uncomfortable in it, you don't have to be. You can regain your power in your relationship. And that's people like me, and not just me, but there are several people who will help you. I have a 6-month program that I work with women through to help them build their strength up and be able to stand tall.
Beautiful. So I love that a 6-month program. That's so important too, because this is not a quick journey. I imagine. And And thank you so much for leaving that message on boundaries. I think that's so important too, and it's often such a difficult thing for all of us to really get clear on those boundaries and then really hold them.
Yes.
Yeah, and when we can do that, it is so empowering. So as we're getting close to time, I do want to give you a moment, to. I think you had an offer for people for listening to the interview today, and so I wanted to give you the opportunity to share that. And I also wanted you maybe to hold up your book and tell us, what your book is.
Hang on a second, I'm gonna grab it.
Okay.
Here's my book. It's called "I Dare You: Conquer Fear and Free Yourself from Emotional Abuse."
Beautiful. Okay.
It's available on Amazon.com, and it's in ebook, paperback, and audio. I had to record it.
Okay, and you know what? I will get a link for that on Amazon and put it in the comments for anybody who's interested and wants to go right there. This is going to post on my business page and in the Women Who Dare to Lead group. So I'll leave that link for them for your book.
Yeah, and they can also contact me through my calendar, and I will give anyone a half an hour free coaching session. And
beautiful.
I'll give you, it's calendly.com/myCarolAnn.
Do you want to put that link in the comments, Carol?
Yes.
Carol Ann, you can do that too. Go ahead and put your Calendly link. Carol Ann's going to put the link to her calendar. Anyone watching today or watching this recording afterwards, please take her up on a free half an hour coaching session if you are interested. She's offering that. Thank you for that generous offer, Carol Ann. Thank you so much for being here. I truly believe that, the work that you are doing is part of the solution to what's happening in the world today. And the world needs amazing leaders like you. And so it's such an honor to get to know you. And I just truly want to thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, you're welcome, my dear. Sending you so much love. I look forward to chatting again another time. And thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.